So, it's 28 participants now. Dr. Patil sir, can we start or will we should wait?
Yes, sir. We will start better because it's time now.
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Aishwarya, please start the
Yes, sir.
registration. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. The galaxy of intellective dignitaries, our honorable principal, invited guest speaker, teachers, and my student friends. I, Aishwarya Shah, welcome you all on behalf of Sihagarh College of Pharmacy. Institution's Innovation Council of Sihagarh Technical Education Society has organized this e-session on the topic Process of Innovation Development and Technological Readiness Level, Commercialization of Lab Technologies and Tech Transfer. Today, we are lucky enough to have Mr. Abhishek Paunikar sir, corporate trainer and business consultant with us to guide us on this topic. Without much delay, I would now like to request Mr. Sandeep Gadve sir to give the preamble for today's session.
Okay, thank you, Aishwarya. Good afternoon to one and all. I extend warm greetings to all of you on behalf of Institute Innovation Council, Srinagar Technical Education Society, Srinagar College of Pharmacy. Topic of today's e-session is process of innovation, development and technology readiness level and commercialization of lab technologies and technology transfer. So in general, the calculus of innovation is really quite simple. Knowledge drives innovation, innovation drives productivity, and productivity drives economic growth. So innovation are of two types. One is accidental and another one is systematic progress innovation. So for example, finding the law of gravitation is accidental, but innovating derivatives of penicillins, benzodiazepines are systematic innovations. So you cannot have any plan, policy, flowchart for accidental innovation. But systematic progress innovations surely have a technical flow diagram. So for example, pump inhibitor, that is first come omeprazole, then with molecular substitution, pharmacological evaluations, we leads to further molecules like pantoprazole, rabeprazole, etc. So, and to get such innovations, we use various micro technologies. So to create such micro technologies, which is known as process of innovation development. Then let's move towards the technology readiness level. So we have great example of the COVID vaccines. So why even after approval of different vaccines, people won't get vaccines availability throughout the world. So the reason was very simple, that we searched the vaccine, got approval for the efficacy, it is okay. But what about the manufacturing of these vaccines? So we were not technologically ready for the manufacturing. So simply for our country, we were in need of at least 2 billion doses of the vaccine. And none of the Indian multinational pharma company were capable of producing such huge dose quantity. So rest of the things everyone knows. So along with the innovation development program, we also need technology readiness level whenever needed. So let's once again revert back to the COVID pandemic global crisis. What was the capacity of India at the beginning for conducting RT-PCR test? So we were having hundreds of lab, thousands of technology institutes and colleges, but still we were unable to conduct few thousands RT-PCR tests. So I'm not talking about just one town or district or state, but on the national level, we were unable for such capacity. So reason was very simple. Our hundreds of labs, thousands of institutes are not commercially competent. Then what is the use? So that every knowledgeable person will say that these labs must be commercially capable to perform their activities so that society will be benefited. So this is about technology readiness level. Then to give guidance on these aspects, today we have eminent guest, Mr. Abhishek Paunikar sir. Now I request to Dr. Patil sir, Principal, Srinagar College of Pharmacy, to welcome our speaker and give more insight about today's topic. Over to you, sir. Dr. Patil,
Thank
sir.
you, Gadve sir. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Gadve.
Yes, sir.
Good morning to one and all. First of all, I bid a warm welcome to today's resource person, Mr. Abhishek Pavnikar sir. And I would like to thank him also for sparing his valuable time, and he uh, he was ready to deliver a talk on technology readiness process of innovation development and commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer on this topic. Just now, Gadve sir, in his preamble, he was telling about more about this today's topic, process of innovation development and technology readiness level, and what is that commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer. Actually, all these things are needed, and our IIC, Institute Innovation Council, is taking due care in arranging such sessions so that the students of SCOP who are in the process of ideation, they are coming up with the ideas, and they are taking up their ideas to the next level. Some of the students are gone to the prototype recently, and we are in this continuous process of innovation, ideation, innovation, and developing some knowledge-based solutions. Altogether, all these things, students need to understand what is the innovation development. What is the process of that innovation development? So far, we have arranged so many sessions, and each resource person gives his a thought. Maybe sometimes their thoughts differ here and there, but overall, they explain their experiences and what should be done in the process of innovation development, how the innovation should be, how they should match with the people's need, how the innovation should empathize the maybe communities, etc., and so on. So just now, Gadve sir was telling about technology readiness level, and how we were lacking in those type of technologies, and how we came up with some solutions on that. No doubt, currently there are so many issues, maybe at ground state, at rural level, and we have to seek some innovative solutions to those problems. And there comes understanding this innovation development and the technology readiness level. All the innovations, they doesn't require huge technology, but some technology should be incorporated in some of the innovations. I seek our students, not only they go with these healthcare problems, but there are a lot of problems maybe in agriculture sector, maybe in the transport, and the waste management, water, and so on. So students should go with some of these ideas. They should find some problems in these areas, and they should come up with some ideas to solve these problems. And we are here through IIC to guide you in the process of innovation development, or the sessions on technology readiness level, commercialization of their products, etc., and so on. So I hope today's deliberation by Mr. Abhishek Pavnikar sir would be beneficial to all my students. And once again, I thank Abhishek Pavnikar sir, and I wish him uh, from SCOP, I bid a warm welcome once again. So I just sought seek this session is open to all, and Gadve sir, from my side, that's all from my side.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Aishwarya.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. I would now like to request Mrs. Sarika Wavale ma'am to please introduce our guest speaker for today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Good morning to one and all present here. It's my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Abhishek Pavnikar, who is a corporate trainer and business consultant. As a resource person for the e-session on the topic of process of innovation development and technology readiness level and commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer, organized by Institutions Innovation Council of Sinhagad Technical Education Societies, Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Vadgaon, Pune. Mr. Abhishek Pavnikar is a mechanical engineer who is graduated in 2015, post-graduated in 2018. During his post-graduation, Sir have awarded with Student of the Year Award in 2016-17. He has completed his dual masters from the University of Melbourne, Australia, in the field of management and finance. He started his career as an associate with Larsen and Turbo and has worked with many multinational companies. In fourth quarter of 2018, he was awarded with Best Performing Relationship Manager Award. With the wealth of this knowledge and experience, he came back to Nagpur and currently he is a corporate trainer and business consultant at Nagpur. He is a certified trainer in English language, English proficiency, and corporate communications with various certifications by MCAT. He has trained many students of various colleges at Nagpur and nearby places. He has an international publication on process optimization and simulation of production industry in his credit. Last but not least, he is associated with many business projects like research and analysis for the preparation of business plan, preparing business model and proposals to arrange funds, developing business strategies, etc. With this brief introduction, I will request Mr. Abhishek Pavnikar sir to start with his session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarika ma'am. Thank you, Sandeep sir. Thank you, Rakesh sir, for giving me an opportunity. So, a very good morning to everyone present over here. There seems to be a technical glitch because I'm not able to, on my camera from my end, but we'll try to solve it as soon as we can. Okay. So basically, what I want from you guys is there are around 56 odd participants as of now. So I would request you guys to be, very active during the presentation. I don't want it to become a very monotonous presentation wherein I would be speaking for an hour and you guys would be listening, because I know since pandemic you all are very much involved in an online session. So I don't want it to make this online sessions as boring as you had before. So let's have it a conversation session, moreover, a one-way dialogue. So let's make it a two-way dialogue. Are you up for it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Students, you can speak, right? Do not hesitate for speaking. Don't worry that your principal sir is there, that your mom is there, that your sir is there. You're free to speak here, right? I welcome all the students to speak whatever comes in your mind. Feel free to ask me n number of questions that you have in your mind, because I am here to clear your doubts on technology readiness level, right? So if at all you have any doubts which is coming on, right, if you have any concerns, if you have anything related to the topic, feel free to ask me, feel free to stop me in between, feel free to ask me to repeat if you aren't getting what exactly I'm trying to deliver. That's completely fine, but I just want it to be a two-way conversation rather than a one-way conversation. So Sarika ma'am have given a brief introduction of who am I. I would just like to add on a few more things on it. So I am working with many companies as an expert HR as well, and I'm working for an Indian Australian United Nations for helping the Indian students to go and settle abroad in the big MNCs. So this is the other part of my background, other part of my profile. So I just wanted to understand. So you all guys are from a pharmaceutical background, isn't it? Guys, come on, speak. It's a two-way conversation. It's not a one-way conversation wherein only one person is allowed to speak. You all are allowed to speak. Don't make it monotonous.
Yes, sir. We are from pharmacy.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So, can anyone let me know what do you mean by the word technology? Forget about technology readiness level as of now. Just tell me what do you mean by the word technology? Come on, that's a very simple English word. What do you mean by technology?
Any instrument which eases the human life or
Perfect.
the way of living.
Effort, human effort, right? Perfect. Anyone else wanted to try? What do you mean by the word technology?
Sir, technology is something where we use our scientific knowledge to develop something, which is very useful or needed for the mankind or, in the industry.
Okay, perfect. May I know your name, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Ravina Rajpurohit.
Okay, perfect. So basically, it was a very good attempt. So technology is something which tries to reduce your cost, time, human efforts. It's basically the application of scientific knowledge for practical purpose, right? So any guesses? This word seems to be pretty big. Technology readiness level. It seems to be very complicated as well. Do anyone wants to try? What do you exactly mean? A blurred guess, a wild guess of what is exactly do you mean by technology readiness level. Don't read what's there written on the slide, right? You would feel bored when you just try to read all the three paragraphs. So just try it. Just give me a wild guess. What comes to your mind when you read that three words, that is technology readiness level? What comes to your mind? Anyone wants to try? Guys, even if it's wrong, that's okay. We all are in a process of learning, right? So I don't want you to be extra smart enough to get me the exact definition of technology readiness level, right? Even if it's wrong, that's perfectly fine. At least try to attempt it. What comes to your mind when we say technology readiness level? No one from the audience?
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, maybe it may be related to, how much efficient the technology is to meet our requirements, something like that.
Okay. I would say you are close to it, but not the exact answer. Anyone else wants to try? Okay, let me give a little background of what technology readiness level is. Basically, it is a measurement system. So when I say a word measurement system, what does it measures? It measures the maturity level of a particular technology. Now we have just tried to understand the basic of what technology means. It is something that we are trying to have an application of scientific knowledge for practical purpose. Technology is something which helps to reduce the cost, time, and human efforts. Now, technology readiness level stands for a measurement system which is used to assess the maturity level of a particular technology. Now, again, this seems to be very complicated, right? Assuming for a moment, you all guys are from a pharmaceutical background, as your professors have given an example of COVID, right? What was the first step in identifying the virus? What was the first step? Whenever these scientists were trying to develop a vaccine, what was the first step that was carried, which helped him to actually find out the final product? What is the first basic step to understand to develop a vaccine? What was the first step?
Sir, the first step is to understand the problem. So for vaccine development, it was to understand what corona actually is.
Perfect. And was it easy for the scientists to understand the virus?
No, sir.
No. So you might have seen, so it's basically, my entire presentation would revolve around talking about technology readiness level in general and then correlation it with pharmaceutical background, right? So now again, talking on the same example of COVID, right? In the initial few months, were scientists able to find out what is going It took them a number of months, it took them the number of days to understand the exact virus, and then after that the mutations and everything. So even for the vaccine to launch in the market, was that easy for them? Do you think they must have followed a process? Do you think they must have followed a guideline? Do you think they must have followed something in order to bring that vaccine into existence?
Yes, sir. They have followed clinical trials and went through, various processes and guidelines.
Perfect. Yes, definitely they have tried. They have carried away clinical trials and everything. Do you think one clinical trial was sufficient for them to bring that vaccine into existence? Please come on, speak. It's a very, we are just having a communication. I'm not giving you. I haven't
Phase
started
3.
in this, right? Sorry, someone was speaking something.
Sir, phase 3. Clinical trial phase 3.
Clinical trial phase 3. So you mean to say there were 3 clinical trials that have been carried out before the vaccine was brought into existence. Is that what you mean?
Yes, sir. Because on the large scale, they test on the large scale at phase 4 they tested the virus. They tested the vaccine.
Okay. So now I would just give you a very small example, and I am sure that you guys will understand what technology readiness level mean in next 5 minutes of your time. So when you say there were 3 phases of clinical trial, before clinical trial, what was the phase? Can somebody tell me? Can somebody guess what was the stage? The very first stage was understanding the virus. Then once you understand what COVID was, then what people were doing, what scientists were doing, they were trying to perform some scientific research on it, right? They were trying to understand in detail. They were trying to correlate the virus with what exactly is that what indication that virus is given to a human body. So what was that phase? That phase was completely a scientific research, and once they have completed their research, they have started inventing that vaccine, right? Clear so far? Am I going too fast,
No,
guys?
sir.
Right, because
Yes, sir.
unless and until I won't understand what exactly is happening with you all, I won't be able to justify the topic that I need to present this morning. Right. So basically, once they have identified, then they have started invention. What happens after the invention is once they were pretty sure about that this is gonna work, they started with the clinical trials. Can anybody let me know, as you all belong to the same background as pharma, can anyone let me know how many people have tried to develop a vaccine? How many laboratories have tried to develop a vaccine, and what was the success rate of developing a vaccine? Any guesses? Okay, who developed the first vaccine? Come on, guys. You've been living in this COVID pandemic since last 2 years. At least you should know this. Which was the first vaccine that came into existence? Which was the first? Okay, tell me the name of vaccines that are available in the market as of now.
Covaxin and Covishield.
No, there are many other as well. Covaxin, Covishield,
So smallpox.
Sputnik.
Sputnik V.
What else? Have you heard about a vaccine called as Pfizer? Have you heard about a vaccine called as AstraZeneca? So there are many vaccines that are locally available now. So AstraZeneca and Pfizer, they are not basically available in India. They were for a very shorter duration, but in Australia and in different parts of the world, they are using AstraZeneca as well as sorry, what was the other one? AstraZeneca and one more, Pfizer. Apart from that, there are other vaccines as well. So even Johnson and Johnson's came up with a vaccine for kids, right? But that again is not into existence. Which was the first vaccine that was incorporated in the market? First vaccine. COVID shield? Any guesses? Okay. Are you people vaccinated? Guys, it's a communication, it's a conversation, right? Don't feel shy about, because even your cameras are off, so don't feel shy about speaking. You can speak, right? I'm just asking you very simple questions.
Sir,
Yes, please.
if I'm not wrong, Bharat Biotech invented first Covaxin, which was, newly invented.
Right, right, right. Very true. So Covaxin came into existence, then COVID Shield, then Sputnik, then AstraZeneca, and then Pfizer. Right. And now we are in a phase of developing a vaccine for babies as well, and that is taken care by Johnson's and Johnson's. Okay, so basically, in this entire process of generating a vaccination for COVID, so there are multiple steps involved. So it's not like there is a virus and then you start doing a research and then you launch it. So there is a process, and that process falls under the category of technology readiness level. That process comes in a category of TRL, wherein you need to you get a clear picture of where exactly that process stands, right? Because ultimately you must have seen that WHO was giving many guidelines that the vaccine would be out by December, the vaccine would be out by January, the vaccine would be out by March. So were they bluffing you out? No, they were following a process, they were following the entire structure, and then they were coming up with a conclusion, and then they were coming up with a date that these vaccines would be launched sometime later this year or this month or maybe a specific date. So what exactly, now coming back to TRL. So TRL, the concept of TRL was basically launched by NASA. NASA. It was developed by NASA, and again, so it's a scale. It's a scale which measures the readiness level, as in the maturity of a certain technology, and that scale ranges from 1 to 9. So you must come up with, if I would be at your place, I would have asked the speaker a question. When you talk about TRL, is TRL a universal thing? Does anyone has this question in their mind? Is TRL the common for every industry, for every factories, for every corporates? Is TRL a common thing? Do you think this is a universal thing? Come on, guys. It's a guess. I would appreciate if it's a wrong answer. Seriously, because I want your doubts. I want your mind to be clear before we end this session. So again, you guys are very shy in talking. So TRL basically, although it was supposed to be a universal scale, but now with the change in trends, many companies uses this particular readiness level. So they are trying to change according to their needs, right? So some might use the standard, some might change it. So when I say this technology readiness level, so as I already mentioned, that TRL is basically a scale which ranges from 1 to 9. So now when I talk about 1 to 9, so there must be a significance of each and every scale, each and every number, right? So we would just start with TRL 1 again. So when I say, so when we were talking about example of COVID, right? So very first stage, there was a scientific research, there was some initial research. So initial research would happen between a stage from 1 to 3. That is what we were trying to invent. That is what we were trying for some inventions. 456 was a stage of clinical trial. 456 was a stage of something wherein the vaccine was started into a prototype form, and then they have started testing on humans and animals, and then scale 789 is commercialization. So when we talk about the word commercialization, so what exactly comes in your mind when you talk about the word commercialization? What comes to your mind when you talk about the word commercialization?
Making it available in the market.
Perfect. Making it available in the market. Do you think even for the vaccine, it was easy for them to commercialize themselves? Was the vaccine available in the market?
People were not ready to, accept it. So it was difficult for them.
Yes, it was difficult for them because people weren't able to accept it, because people had a lot of rumors from the market that this vaccine may have certain side effects as well, right? So again, talking about commercialization, even the entire scale from 1 to 9 is not easy for any technological innovation. So each and every one, if we try to find out, we need to figure out at this scale we need to follow the entire process, right? Even if we try to skip one process, that means you are trying to miss out something on a certain given point. So the very first step comprises of an idea. So what exactly idea means? How do you generate idea? How do you generate idea? Is it something that pops down directly in your mind when you are sitting, just like, you know, Einstein?
When we are
Sir,
into
if
the
we look
process of
around us, sir, if we
Sorry.
look around us, we will identify problems and thus we can get ideas.
Yes, perfect. So that is where the scientists have identified, as in the experts have identified, the world is going in a crisis, right? And this is something related to medical crisis. So they have tried to identify the cause of the virus, right? That is the very first thing. They have identified the problem, and from that problem, that idea was generated to have a vaccine. Now when I say commercialization, right, now this is where the product is in the market, right? And now when the product is in the market, so you get the feedback from the market, you get the feedback from the market of what exactly the vaccine needs to have. Is there any change? Are there any side effects? So even everyone who tries to develop something new has to have a certain guidelines and follow the entire process before launching that into market. Now when I say step number 1, 2, and 3, it's all about academic research. Now how are you going to identify at which level are you at when it comes to academic research? There are 3 levels for academic research. How are you going to identify at which level are you at? Any idea? I say that you are at academic research stage, right? So, but there are 3 points. There are three, scale. That is scale TRL1, TRL2, and TRL3. How are you gonna distinguish between TRL1, TRL2, TRL2, and TRL3? I'm 100% sure you guys are enough smart. You guys can guess what exactly TRL1, 2, and 3 are. I would definitely explain you the entire TRLs, but what comes in your mind when it says why 3 different TRL have been given to academic research?
sir, according to me, as being learners, we are on the very first stage.
Right, right. So you are at a very first stage as far as the learners are concerned, I understand. But now, okay, even if I try to talk about TRL level 1, so TRL level 1 is the basic foundation of the problem. TRL level 2 stands for the academic research or scientific research, and now TRL level 3 is laboratory research. Can someone tell me, or can someone brief about what do you mean by laboratory research? When I say the word laboratory research, then what comes in your mind? Lab
A
research.
place to do experiments.
Perfect. Yes, that's a perfect answer. Now 3 and 4. So what do you mean by prototype? Forget about TRL3 and TRL4. What do you mean by the word prototype?
A simple version of our research, what we are going to propose.
Right, perfect. That is what a prototype is. So prototype is basically, that's a transition between stage 3 to stage 4, right? So that is where you generate a prototype of what exactly, because it's not always, because when we try to do research, so research comes in different categories, right? So you do not share your research with everyone, but for people to understand what's in your mind, you definitely need to have something to show them, and that's where prototype comes into picture. So prototype comes into picture from TRL stage 3 to TRL stage 4. So in this case, that's a transition stage. That's a transition stage, and we need to figure out. We need to generate a prototype. What next? What do you mean by alpha product prototype? I have just given you a very simple example. Assume it for a moment. Let me just, come to a very basic example. If at all you're trying to generate a mobile phone, right? A very smartphone competitive to Apple. So, alpha prototype is basically before you launch that product in the market, one should be able to use it. One should be able to, describe their entire product to people and then take feedback. That is alpha product. So this is a working prototype. So when we talk about TRL 5, 6, so this is what we call as a working prototype, wherein people can be able to recognize what are we talking about, wherein people can be able to judge what are we talking about. So this is a working condition prototype. Now TRL 7, 8, 9 is basically where you complete the product prototype and it comes into a finishing stage. Now when I talk about the finishing stage, so in particular this stage as well, there are multiple opportunities wherein you may get a negative feedback about your product and you may incorporate those feedbacks in the final finished product. So what happens after TRL 9? Can anyone maybe know? Is it possible to have anything after TRL 9 and TRL 10, 11, 12? What do you think?
Post marketing phase means.
Perfect. That is post-market phase. A very good attempt. Guys, this is what I need from you. I need a two-way conversation. I don't need a one-way conversation when I'm trying to speak for hours and hours here. Right. Post-marketing. So what do you mean by post-marketing? Can you please elaborate? I would
Sir,
rather say post-marketing, post-launching. So what happens after post-marketing and post-launching?
sir, after we have developed some product, we have to check whether it will sustain in the market or not, whether people will accept or not. So that is post marketing. We do a kind of survey.
You do. Okay. So is survey mandate to be carried out after the product is launched in the market, or that can be carried out in the prototype phase as well?
Yeah, sir. Basically, it could be carried out before as well, because once the product is ready, it has to be sold out.
Right. So, and basically what we call it as a pilot stage. What do you mean by pilot stage? Pilot stage is a stage wherein we try to have a product in the market. We try to experiment that product on people and animals, or any living being. We try to accumulate the feedbacks. We try to wait for certain time and understand what are the drawbacks, loopholes, and the demerits, and then we try to fix those and then try to launch the product. So everyone must be using a smartphone. I'm giving you a very simple example just to make you understand what do you mean by post-marketing fixes. So everyone uses a smartphone, right? Yes or no? Or are you still on that Nokia 1100? You guys all uses a smartphone, right? Many
Yes, we
might
do.
use, yes, many might use an Android and many might use an Apple. So what happens after every 2-3 months? Do you get a software update? You get a
Yes.
the software update. The bugs so and so have been fixed, right? Or there are so and so bugs, and that is the reason we are launching a new software update. So what is that happening? How are companies coming to a conclusion that they have so and so problem in the software? It is definitely the feedback from the users, right? So once we are giving a feedback to a company via an email or via anything, so they are coming up with a conclusion. So basically this entire process is a journey. It continuation will depend definitely on the feedback that what you are getting from the users, what feedback are you getting from the end users, right? So now when I try to correlate it with the pharmaceutical industry, before correlating it with the pharmaceutical industry, I would just ask you 4-5 basic questions. So what stage are you at when you carry a laboratory research? What TRL stage are you at when you carry a laboratory research? We have discussed this.
3.
TRL?
3.
Perfect. What stage are you at when you are carrying, when you are transiting from a laboratory research to generating a prototype?
4.
4. Perfect. What stage are you at when you are about to transit from a prototype stage to launching in any market? Guys, come on. What stage are you at when you are in a transition phase from prototype to launching it in the market? What's this?
9.
7.
7. Perfect. 9 is basically where you manufacture the product and you launch that product. But when you are transiting from a prototype stage to launching, so when I say launching in the market, before, so launching doesn't mean that you would be launching at stage 7 or a level 7. So level 7, the manufacturing would come into picture, the costing would come into picture, everything would come into picture in 7 and 8, and then at stage 9 you start manufacturing it, right? Have you understood the basic scale from 1 to 9? We would try to correlate with pharmaceutical background as well, but have you understood the basic stage from 1 to 9?
Yes.
Okay, guys, any one of you are trying to do any research or PhDs in pharmaceutical background, willing to do a PhD? You must have done small projects in your academics. Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, when you are trying to do any small project in your academics, what happens is the very first stage is initialization, right? Initialization is you come up with an idea, and then slowly and gradually, in a period of a month or so, you come up with your final product. So even though TRL is followed by everyone, but the only problem with we Indians are we don't know that we are following a process that is termed TRL. So whatever you do, right, even a normal small mini project or mega project in your particular academics, you are following a process, but still we didn't knew that we are following a process that is called as TRL. Can anyone let me know now? Can anyone give me a brief summary of scale 1 to 9? Guys, try, please. I would appreciate if you are wrong, I would appreciate that, but at least try a brief summary from scale 1 to 9 in your own language. I'm happy with Hindi as well. I'm happy with Marathi as well. I'm happy with Punjabi as well. So whatever language you are comfortable with, can anyone give me a brief from TRL 1 to TRL 9? Come on, guys, you can at least try. As someone trying to attempt, at least try. It's a very simple scale. It's a very simple thing that we have discussed. Okay, what does TRL 1 stands for?
Laboratory research.
TRL 2 stands for? Guys, come on, you have answered my question before. TRL 1 stands for? Am I going too fast? Is it getting too bored for you guys to understand this basic scale? What does TRL 2 stands for? Okay, what does TRL 1 from 3 stands for? What does TRL 1 to 3 stands for? That's a very basic thing, academic research, isn't it? Is anyone there, or it's just a formality for people to just log in into this particular seminar and just, do whatever they wish to?
Sir,
Right. Yes, please.
sir, 1, 2, 3, as you said, it's academic research. After 4, 5, 6, it includes the prototype formation, and 7, 8, 9 is where we are done with the finished product. And after that, we can go for post marketing.
That's what was required. So why are you guys so hesitant to answer this? Okay, may I know your good name, please, again?
Yes, sir. Pardon, please.
Can I know your name, please?
Sir, I told Ravina Rajpurohit.
Okay, Ravina. So can you just bifurcate process 1, 2, and 3, that is academic research? What is TRL1, TRL2, and TRL3? I would give you an option: initial identification, laboratory research, and scientific research. So what is initial identification, laboratory research, and scientific research?
Sir,
Which is, please go ahead.
Yeah, identifying a basic problem is the initial identification. After that, we go for scientific knowledge, and after that, we go for laboratory practices to work out with whatever we have.
Perfect. So this is what academic research stands for. Now, when I say TRL 4 and 5, so TRL 3 to 4 is a stage of transition. Transition from laboratory research to generating a prototype.
Prototype.
What is TRL 5 and 6? 5 is basically where you just work on generating a prototype. 6 is basically where you develop a prototype, and that prototype is basically in a workable condition so that people understand what are you trying to do. 7, 8, 9 is
Finished product.
a very good answer. That's already written on this line. But what exactly finished product involved? 7, 8, 9. 7 is basically manufacturing. 8 is basically trying to reduce the cost, and 9 is basically to launch that product into the market. Okay, so when I correlate it with the pharmaceutical industry, so in pharmaceutical industry, as I said earlier, the very first statement of mine was TRL was launched by NASA, right? It was developed by NASA, but that doesn't mean that the concept that was developed by NASA, everyone has to follow the same scale, right? So in general, whatever we have tried to discuss so far was that TRL and basics. Now when I'm trying to correlate it with the pharmaceutical industry, so things might change, but the basic remains the same, right? So when I try to correlate it with your industry, so the basic research activity, that what we the process, terminology that we use in pharmaceutical is preclinical studies rather than research. It's all about preclinical studies. So that stands from TRL 1 to 4. So in this particular stage, in TRL 1, only the findings, only the foundation is being studied, right? And nothing else. So they just create a base of the problem, they just create a base of the findings, and then they try to actually do some research, and that is what TRL1 stands when it comes to pharmaceutical industry. Now TRL2, so we have already identified the problem, right? So in TRL1 we have identified the problem, but now what happens in TRL2 is the main focus is on what has caused the problem to arise, right? We have understood the problem, but now but now in TRL2, we would be understanding what are the different things that have caused this problem to arrive or to come into existence. So in this particular case, what we do is we do a very deep analysis. That is what we have explained as scientific research. So we do a very deep research about what went wrong, what are the parameters, what are the different combinations which have came into existence that have created this problem, and what are different things, what are different remedies which we can follow in order to eradicate this problem. So that comes into TRL2. TRL3 is basically we do some laboratory trials, we do some testings, we do collect data, we do collect proof, and then we try to work off what exactly is going wrong. So this is all what comes under the preclinical studies when it comes to correlating this with the pharmaceutical industry. TRL4 is basically now you have identified the problem, you have the proof of concept, but now you need to demonstrate whatever idea that it's in your head. You need to demonstrate that idea. You need to make someone understand, or you need to make a clear identification of what the problem is going to be like, would be the adverse events, what would be the side effects, what are the basic chemical and physical property of that virus. So you need to do some more research and deep and demonstrate whatever you have did in your TRL 1 to 3, that is something which is very relevant to the problem that has been identified. So you need to actually start thinking on this. Now, when I say TRL5, so TRL5 is basically in the previous scale, that was a stage of a prototype. So again, when you try to correlate this with pharmaceutical, this is also having a running a pilot production. So pilot production is basically a prototype. So basically you try to generate your own, assuming from we're taking an example of vaccine. So in this particular stage, the vaccine was being generated in the laboratory, that has been created in the laboratories, and now those vaccines were those vaccines were studied. Once the composition was studied, and then they were trying to bring into existence. So that comes in the TRL level 5. Now, somebody previously said clinical trials. So there are 3 stages of clinical trials. That was a perfect answer. Clinical trial 1, 2, and 3. So that comes under stage TRL 6, 7, and 8. So can somebody tell me, just try this question. I know you must be knowing, but don't hesitate to answer this. Before having clinical trials, do you think any investigations or certifications or any approval needs to be made?
Investigational new drug approval is to be made based on animal trials and
Right.
other investigations that are made on the drug and its adverse effects studied
Right.
in animals.
Right. Who is the authority in India who does this?
Mm.
Who is the authority in India who does this? Guys, come on. You should be aware of this, right? Who gives you the permission to try your product or to try your invention or to try your technology or to try anything on humans? There must be some authority, right? There must be someone who gives you the permission, or you need to take license or something, right? There must be some formal procedure wherein it's not like you develop a drug and then you just give it to humans. It's not that easy. There has to be a process attached to this as well. Who gives you the permission for
IND,
clinical? Sorry.
INDA.
IDA. Can you elaborate what do you mean by IDA so that other people understand? What do you mean by IDA? It's basically DCGI. So what is DCGI? Guys, this is, you all should know this. You should be aware. It's not just like you prepare a vaccine and then you should give it directly to humans or animals. So it's basically that vaccine has to be approved, or that has to be given a green signal from DCGI. DCGI is the Drugs Controller General of India. So it's an official of who is the final regulatory authority for the approval of clinical trials in India. It is DCGI, the Drugs Controller General of India. So you need to get an approval. You need to demonstrate that your vaccine is gonna be, or your trials is not gonna harm any humans or animals, and then and then they give an authority or approval to go for clinical trials. So how are clinical trials carried out? Come on, this is a very simple question. How clinical trials are carried out? Is it carried out in bulk? Guys, come on. It's a very simple question. Have you heard about clinical trials before? Again, coming down to the basics. What are clinical trials?
Sir, before approving a drug to be safe and secure for use, we have to perform certain basic trials to assure its safety and all. So
Okay,
those are
perform those trials. trials are always performed in a very controlled and monitored environment. So when I say the word controlled and monitored environment, is it something that you have developed in your laboratory and then you are free to give it to any human or any animal in any condition? No, it's basically like whenever you perform a trial, there are conditions attached to the trials as well that means it should be at least controlled. It should be carried out in a very careful manner. It should be carried out in a very monitored clinical conditions, right? So whenever you try to perform a clinical trial, so you write a declaration from the person who is happy to take that clinical trial on himself, right? Again, that comes under procedure, and this procedure is again being approved by the DCGI, right? So when DCGI give you a final regulatory, final approval of clinical trials in the country, they give you their own checklist that you need to perform so and so activities before bringing that trials into existence. So what happens if TRL sits? So basic clinical trial is being carried out. They perform those trials on few animals and few humans. So before humans, they try to perform it on animals, and at the same time, a very small number of humans. But again, when they say a very small number of humans, it is in a very controlled and medically fit environment, right? In TRL, since they would be waiting for certain period of time, and whatever reactions, feedback they are getting from the users, they would try to incorporate before going for a second clinical trial. So second clinical trial, do you think that there is a difference between clinical trial 1 and clinical trial 2?
Yes, sir.
Scale difference.
Sorry, which difference?
A scale difference.
A scale difference, definitely yes, but why do we need to perform?
So you're not audible.
Am I not audible? Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why do we need to perform 3 clinical trials? Why not 1 and why not 2?
To check the uniformity that it will be safe. In a one trial, we cannot say it is safe.
Right. So what happens basically in clinical trial 1? So in clinical trial 1, everybody may react to that particular vaccine differently. Right, it's not like if you have taken a vaccine or I have taken a vaccine, my body would react the same. So many of you might have taken Covidshield and Covaxin, so you might have received an after effects that someone is down by fever, or somebody is down by cold, or there is some extreme body ache, or in some people you may find that they're absolutely fine even after taking vaccine. So what happens in clinical trial 1, they try to understand the basic conditions, or they try to understand how humans are reacting to it. In clinical trial 2, again they perform it on different age group or a different set of people. Then in clinical trial 3, they try to correlate the results of clinical trial 1 and clinical trial 2 and come up with an evidence that this is what the trial would stand for, and this is what the exact plan is going to be like. So that is the reason that the clinical trial is being carried out in 3 different stages. So now India, so basically, so what happens is, assuming for a moment, we are trying to come up with an oral arrangement. So what happens is, we need to make an evidence that we need to bring everything on a piece of a paper. We need to sign a contract. So in clinic TRL 8, the entire test results of TRL 1, sorry, clinical trial 1 and clinical trial 2 that happens in TRL 6 and 7, they are studied, they are correlated, then a document is prepared, and that approval letter, we need that document to be authorized again by DCGI, and then they give you an approval letter that this is a safe vaccine, right? And again, now TRL 9 is basically bringing that entire vaccine into existence and making it a sign wherein people can use it safely. So what happens after TRL 9? Is the research again going on, or do you stop the research there itself? What happens after TRL 9? Now, once we have done clinical trials, we have done everything, right? So we have performed clinical trial 1, we have performed clinical trial 2, we have tried to correlate clinical trial 1 with clinical trial 2, and we have tried to perform clinical trial 3 as well. And TRL 9 is a stage wherein the drug is ready to use, right? But does the research guys, come on. Once you launch your drug in the market,
No,
will you stop your research there
no,
itself? No. Why?
because then you have a larger demographic now, and there's a lot of feedback that you're getting, and different people might experience different effects, and you need to continuously update your product and make changes into it.
Right. That's a very perfect answer. Okay. Do you have any questions for me now? Feel free to ask me any question that you have in your mind related to technology readiness level and how a product can be brought into existence. Feel free to ask me any question. I'm happy to answer. Okay. Guys, have you understood what TRL is? Have you understood the different levels of TRL?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, we have understood.
Okay, do you have any questions? Even a silly question is a question for me. Don't think that your classmates or your college mates are gonna make fun of you by asking a silly question. Don't think about them. I'm happy to answer any silly question that you have. Any doubts in TRL stage 1 to 9? Guys, come on, ask me questions if you have.
So, what did you say was the alpha prototype?
Okay, what do you mean by the word alpha prototype? So what happens is alpha prototype in pharmaceutical background, I won't say that is a proper word, but in general, alpha prototype is basically a prototype which is in a complete workable condition. So when I say completely workable condition, that means it can be tested, it can be used. The entire concept that you have is in mind is completely brought into existence. The look doesn't matter at alpha prototype, the field doesn't matter, but your entire concept that is in your head is being incorporated and brought into existence. So alpha prototype is basically a completely working prototype that the audience would be getting what exactly the idea is. Any other question?
The amount, the amount of audience that you've given the product to use, does that like how many people need to use
So
it?
basically, there is no limit, right? It all depends upon what particular type of product are you going to manufacture again. So when it comes to clinical trials as well, so there is no particular limit. But in clinical trials, what happens is we take people from different age groups, right? We bifurcate because it's not like whenever I'm performing a clinical trial, right? Your question was, is there any limitations on the number of people to perform a clinical trial, right? This is what you are asking me. So there isn't a limitation, but what happens here is it all depends upon the efficacy. It all depends upon like what age group are we targeting. And whenever we try to perform any clinical trial, we try not to take people only from one age group. We try to bifurcate people into different age group, and then we try clinical trials on them. So probably it can be 100, it can be 50, it can be 150 as well. It all depends. So there is no fixed numbers, but definitely it has to be at least more than 50, because to understand the different traits, to understand what exactly people are responding, so we cannot just perform in a very small audience. So audience has to be more than 50. Any
Thank
other
you, sir.
question?
No, sir.
So there are no boys in this entire college. I haven't heard any boys question or answers from them. Any other question, guys? Feel free to answer. Feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Do you have any other
Excuse
questions?
me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, in the very beginning, you were talking about why is it, TRL is global or not. So please, can you elaborate a bit more about it?
Okay, so basically, dear, TRL is a global thing, but again, means TRL was being developed by NASA, right? So NASA, the way of working of NASA is completely different. So when NASA developed TRL, so they have indicated, they have actually name the scale as per what their understanding is, as per what their requirement is. Although this is a very global scale, even if you are in India, even if you are in abroad, even you are at any other part of the world, TRL, everyone would understand what TRL is. But what happens is, industry to industry, they may term TRL as a universal thing, but the scale may vary. The scale would be from 1 to 9. But since this particular type, when we say, just giving you an example again, so some company may talk about a transition from TRL3 to TRL4 as a prototype. Some company may talk about a transition from 4 to 5 as a prototype. Right. So company to company or industry in industry, it may vary, but the domain would be the same. It would range from 1 to 9. But again, when we try to cut that domain into 9 different parts, so some firms or some companies or some countries may name it in a different way. So although it's a universal thing, but it may vary from industry or companies or countries. Guys, any other question? Feel free to ask me. Don't be shy. Don't be. Yes.
I have one question.
Finally, I'm glad a male is speaking. Yes.
Yes. So my government is administering the vaccine from last 1 year till now. So FDA has not approved this vaccine. It is under the emergency use. Okay, only. So
Right.
why this happens? 1 year data is very big data, and they have administered the vaccine in the large population. So why
Right.
FDA has not given the approval? At which TRL stage the vaccine is now? Uh, these are my questions.
Okay, so when you say about launching a vaccine, definitely it has been launched at stage 9, right? Because before launching a vaccine, again, you need to take an approval from DCGI, right? So we cannot launch the vaccine. And now when it says that the vaccine is launched, but it has not been approved by FDA, because now FDA is a completely different authority, right? But the big approval is needed from DCGI. What happens is, I should not say this, but there are many political involvements as well in launching a vaccine. If you might heard about that COVID shield. COVID shield is banned in many parts of the world. What do you think? What's the reason behind this? In India, there is a population of around 140 CR, right? 140 crore is the population of Indian origin. So out of 140 CR, even if 50 crore people are vaccinated, out of 50 crore, I guess around 50% must have taken COVID shield, right? So why do you think 50% of this 25 crore people must have taken COVID shield? So why do you think COVID shield is banned in the rest of the world? Who has launched COVID shield?
AstraZeneca, Serum Institute in India.
Serum Institute. Okay, so Serum Institute hails from
Yes, yes, sir.
Serum Institute has an office. They hails from, their origin is
Pune.
Pune, right? That is India, right?
Yeah.
So at times there are political involvements as well. Although it is considered to be a safe vaccine, but Australia, Malaysia, and some part of the world, they have straight away said that we won't be using that vaccine because it is not as effective and the efficacy is very less as compared to Covaxin or the other vaccines. So at times what happens is there are political involvements as well, and that is the reason many authorities were not in favor of launching certain vaccines. Although they have passed everything, right, but still politically they failed to actually launch those in particular parts of the world. Although 1 year is a very big data for anyone to understand, because if we are trying to understand any trials on the vaccine, 6 months is more than sufficient for one to understand. But again, this is because of some political reasons they might have not actually brought that into existence.
Okay.
Guys, any more questions for me? Feel free to ask me. Are you guys clear with what exactly TRL is? Be honest.
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay. So you don't have any questions for me?
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. So
Yes,
leave
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
So I guess we are good to go.
Yes, sir. Yes. Aishwarya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed motivating and extremely informative. We are so grateful and privileged to have you amongst us. Now, before moving on to the vote of thanks, I request all the participants to switch on their cameras for a group photo.
Participants, the permission is given for switch on your camera.
Just a minute, guys. Yes, sir. I would now like to request Mrs. Vaishali Kulkarni ma'am to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Good morning, one and all. Thank you, Monica sir, for such a wonderful session. I am sure this session will be very beneficial to all of our students. On behalf of Sinhagar College of Pharmacy, Vadgaon, Pune, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks. It gives me immense pleasure to conclude today's e-session. With great sense of gratitude, I express my thanks to Honorable Founder President Professor M.L. Navle Sir, Honorable Secretary Dr. Mrs. Sunanda M. Navle Ma'am, Honorable Vice President Mrs. Rachana Navle Ashtekar Ma'am, and Honorable Vice President Mr. Rohit M. Navle Sir for their constant support and providing all the facilities and infrastructure. I sincerely thanks to our respected principal Dr. Rajesh Bhai Patil sir and Professor Dr. K.N. Gujar sir for driving force for our IIC session. On heartfelt thanks to all the participants for their active participation, and special thanks to our organizing committee and all the HODs, teaching and non-teaching staff for their support and coordination. With warm words and kind messages, we move toward the end of today's session. Thank you so much. I conclude here.
Okay.
Today's session is ended.
Yeah, we should conclude the program. Yeah.
Yes.
We end the meeting at our end. Okay. Yeah. Abhi sir, I'll call back to you.